good evening. This is a new stream with sound, hopefully. Let's see if you lot are able to hear me this time, because you couldn't a few minutes ago. I'll just put a message in the chat for those that were hanging around from before, trying to tell me there was no sound. Well, let's see if this works out. This is my little no sound. Let me just check. There we go. Let me see here. Okay, can I get a check? Can somebody hear? Somebody give me a thumbs up or a comment to let me know that you can hear okay. I really appreciate all you others hanging around while I was having technical difficulties there. This is the problem with using Wi-Fi when you should be hardwired for broadcasts like this. I do apologise for those who were hanging around and anything. I'm back now, and hopefully tighter and more synced in the message I have for you this evening, which shouldn't take too long. Great, thank you, Jessica. That is great to hear. Okay, Dioji here with a control group update for you all, and a bit of an update on what's happening in the press. We have called this Fear and Loathing in the UK. Great, that's because we are on a cabled connection. You cannot beat the cable, people. Thank you for that, Ella. And all right, this is a message about fear, as well as propaganda. So you may or may not, in the press recently, there has been quite a lot of mention of how vaccine refusers, the reason why the lockdown measures may not be fully lifted and the social distancing measures may not be lifted on June 21st. This is pure. I thought, of course, this was about defeating AIDS that was looking at things like hospitalizations and deaths as to whether we were back to a life of normal or not, and to be turning on the minority of people who are not accepting an experimental treatment is serious high agenda, and for it to reach the front as well as tabloids is an abomination, quite frankly, that there are so many media professionals that are on board with this. Let me just make sure there's nothing related to this broadcast. I was ignoring it before. It was like, sorry, I want a stream. It's so funny. Here we are. So we have the big issue. 1 month's time, between now and a month, I think we're going to see a heating up of this message that the reason why things won't go back to normal is because of the pro-choice, pro-safety, pro-science people who'd be a control group before we see the kind of life going back to normal. We've got a big issue here, people, because as long as we have got a scattered message, then people don't know how many people are interested in a pro-safety position. They don't know how many people are actually coming from a position of saying, well, let's do this as science, but science needs a control group. If you're going pro-freedom, if you're going anti-vax, if you're going evil, abominable globalists, anything like that, it's not going to serve us right now. There's a document circulating in the Scottish school system at the moment. There's probably an equivalent one in the English school system that is talking about anti-vax and challenging the NHS's Protect as being a form of radicalization and extremism that is being equated with Al-Qaeda and anti-Semitism. This is something that people should be greatly concerned about. Now that is getting passed on to sitting leaders as to how to address that with children. Would Islamic, sorry, not Islamic, but Al-Qaeda anti-Semitic extremism. This is in tandem with something that my daughter told me that was a big ask, which was asking young children exactly what was going on at home during lockdown, asking them to be as honest as possible, telling them it was anonymous, but inviting them to give names and addresses if they were volunteering. This is something of grave concern. This is the real Big Brother maneuver to get children to tell on their parents, basically. Now, of data that can be gathered and that kind of thing, but when we are looking at conspiracy, anti-vax, and challenging the NHS messages as being a form of extremism, we need to be very careful how we speak, as an act of self-care and self-care, really. My next point of a focused message. In 1 month on delivering the list of the control group to number 10. We have a good number of people on there at the minute, but not enough. And not only that, I have a number of people who have not put down their real names, or people who have put their names down but then have expressed reserve that don't want their names handed over. They wish to remain anonymous. Now, I've been talking with the co-planners of the control group who are trying to get this properly so that when we do go, we have a credible scientific position, pro-safety, pro-choice, pro-science, and anti-nothing. Yeah, and during planning, we've been trying to work out how can we take care of these people who are afraid and don't want their names to go out. And despite the hours of thinking that's gone into it, the answer is we cannot. If you're afraid and wish to hide, then hide. But the reality needs to be faced that if you are on the NHS record somewhere as living in the UK and that you have received an invite, that you have not taken it and you are being classed as a refuser anyway. And depending on the number of invites you have, obviously they will know how avidly you are refusing. So no matter what we thought about it, there was just no way to preserve anonymity. So if you wish to hide, then hide. If you wish to have your name taken off the list of the control group, then please tell us. Some of you I already know about, the rest of you need to tell us because the list is going in as is. Now here's the problem we've got, is if we go in with fake names and anonymized names, then it is not credible. The government is going to say, anybody else is going to say, well, how do we know you've not got like random people from all over the world on here? How do we know that these are just not fake names that you've constructed to give the impression of numbers when you don't have them? Now, this is where there's a real need to choose. Is now the time to stand and stand out from hiding behind a rock and stand and be seen? Is this cause big enough? Is this pressure and reason enough? And if not this, then what? What would it take for you to take a stand and say, my name, I'm not standing for this? Remember, the control group is the only position that I have seen that's out there that is pro-safety, pro-choice, pro-science, anti-nothing. If you're a message and a conspiracy message of evil machinators, evil globalists, things like that, that is not going to win us the numbers and the credibility to actually piece of safety that is the control group. So I'm asking you, if you are interested in a genuine, safe position in the control group, then please get behind a single message for just a couple of months. Put the other messages later. Can we focus on one thing, just one thing for a few months? I mentioned it before about the marches, and there's like 10, 15, 20 different messages on these marches, so that we're looking on, they can't really see what it's about. And when of local press around the country are interviewing people, they're getting different messages as to what their position is. So there's no real coherent, cohesive. I'm inviting and asking you to stand under one message for a few months all, to give an impression of breadth and depth that is real, that will give us an impression of size that cannot be made invisible. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, how's it going? What's happening? You know, what's been moving on? I'll tell you, I'm working as fast as I can. I have a number of businesses, I have children. There's a number of things happening in my life that are keeping me very busy, and I'm doing as much as I can on this. It requires other people to take up the call. If you hear a dog howl or a wolf howl, what happens shortly after it is other dogs and wolves take up the howl of their own. This needs people to talk about the control group, to tell people about it, to invite them into it. Even people taking the shot can still sign up and say that they think we should have a control group, even if they themselves can't be and want to be in it. It is a scientific position of credibility. You can get huge numbers under that, but it requires a message, a single position. Can we do it? And if not for this, then I don't. And really, for me, even within the ranks of the so-called free thinking, we are still divided and conquered if we cannot agree on one thing. And I've seen loads of people with this pro-freedom, These are huge messages, are huge goals to achieve that are just not credible targets when we're facing the level of press that is coming against us here. Now, what happened last time with some of the videos is they got shared, but then they got shadow banned. And because people weren't engaging with their own content, weren't talking about it, many of those videos got no views, no engagement, nothing like that. So if you would like to see this grow in numbers, can you please talk about it, mention it as pro-science, pro-safety, pro-choice, because that is what this is. And it really is safeguarding humanity against a potential disaster. So there are two positions that we are standing on here, so just to help you, when you're talking about the control group, people will ask you, what does it mean? And what about the rest, the dying, and what about all the rest of it? What in our explorations with professionals is that you cannot get into a discussion about, here is why. Different people have different methods of acceptable risk. For some people, 1 in 100, which is the equivalent of the traditional flu, 1 in 100 deaths is an acceptable risk, and for others it is not. But that's it. The conversation's over there, because what you're dealing with is different values, different measures, different acceptable risks, and those will be as individual elements and hairstyles. The debate of data and risks is not the place to stand on for this. There are two linchpin positions that are irrefutable for the justification for the control group. Number one is Nuremberg. Nuremberg trials stated that no one has to submit themselves to a medical treatment without their consent, especially an experimental one, because Nuremberg was about very experimental stuff being done to people without their consent, with horrific side effects and horrific downstream consequences. So number one is Nuremberg. Pro-choice, I have the choice. Number two is thalidomide. Those bottles of, which is what thalidomide was sold under, and in absolute capitals, that they're absolutely safe for pregnant and nursing mothers. And they were still publishing that children were being born deformed with horrific deformities. It took 5 years to prove that it was that drug causing the deformities, and still doing that you had was all of those sales people, all of those medical professionals involved in the handing out of that substance and the manufacture and in the sales, saying it's not our treatment, it's something, our treatment is completely safe. And they believed it, and they were wrong. They believed it, though. They had conviction. Just like now, it's people with conviction when they cannot know. We have unqualified politicians, qualified scientists who are not vaccine scientists, coming forward and preaching belief, trust, absolute, when they literally cannot know. So the two things to rest on: Nuremberg and the rights that it affords us, and the fact that absolute safety cannot be known. And the evidence of thalidomide and DDT and other things show that we need a serious period of time, 15 years, if not more, to know whether there are serious downstream consequences here. That gives us the argument to have a control group for 15 to 30 years, and it pro-science, based on history, scientific history, that this level of conviction in absolute safety has been said before and has been horribly wrong, with massive consequences. That's it. The conversation is over. Those are for a control group, and we need no further grounds. We don't need any more. Those are the two. When you get lost in data debates, all you are debating is different accepts, and that's always going to give out different results. So I'm putting out this message because the recent press has greatly concerned me. Tomorrow, the 21st of May, there's 1 month before the date that I was planning on handing over the group thing. The evidence says that there's not enough numbers to draw the line for sure. That's going to have to wait for a future event when we have some more people feel like they have had their trust broken by the state in this instance. But for now, we can still launched the control group as a credible means of safeguarding those who wish to be pro-choice, pro-science, pro-safety, and actually those who just want to say, do you know what, I'm up for taking that treatment, but I just want to wait and see. I want to wait and see and make sure there aren't any long-term consequences, because it is a while. Here we go. I'm getting some more updates here. Ah, yeah, here's somebody who's saying the MMR almost killed their son. Exactly. And let's remember the UK government has a website that specifically is called Vaccine Damage Payment. Vaccine Damage Payment. UK-damage-payment. That would not exist if vaccines were absolutely safe. And the fact that as a standardized website shows that there are enough people who are who have been affected that they require to be compensated for having vaccines that had gone through. These are vaccines had gone through all of the proper measures, all of the proper trials, and they were still causing horrific, damaging, life-changing side effects to people. And this is and what we're dealing with here is an experimental treatment where we don't have that much data. This is a crucial moment. This is a crucial time window, because after June 31st, the propaganda against the people who wish to be pro-choice and who wish to wait is going to really increase. So that's why I've in the corner here, you'll see inthecontrolgroup.com. Please pass it on. Say to people on there, addresses the reasons why we need a control group, why it's credible, even if you are happy to take the shot. Tell people about it. Tell 10 people about it if you can. Share it on your social feeds if you can. And it is not anti-anything. This is crucial. There is a narrative against pro-safety, pro-choice, pro-science people trying to make out they're anti. I am not anti-anything. I'm really not. I am literally in this pro-safety, pro-choice, pro-science. This is a scientific position, and it is one which seeks to safeguard the gene pool against a potential disaster, because thalidomide to every woman. What if we'd sprayed DDT on every crop just in malarial zones? Our species have been devastated. Now, I am not saying that is going to happen here, but what I am saying, nobody knows. The manufacturers don't, the salespeople don't, the politicians don't, nobody knows. And for them to profess absolute safety is a crime, in my opinion, because it is a breach of trust. It is misleading people, unfounded position. So please, if you are afraid, and hide. If you think this is enough to stand up for, then add your name. If you wish to see the control group to succeed, but you are involved in a number of other or pro-truth kind of campaigns or positions, I'm asking you if it's possible to focus on one for a short period of time so that we can have a standard image that's given whenever the press are looking or whenever onlookers are looking to understand where you're from, that they're hearing a single thing. Just for a short while, to give us a chance to get the numbers up to a credible level, because we need a couple of million names on this list. Otherwise, we are such a minority, we are easy to ignore. So that's my request. Mention the control group to people. Please, www.inthecontrolgroup.com. Tell some people about it. Share it on your feeds and talk about it. Just for the next few weeks, to see if we can get the numbers up before, so that when I turn up there, there's going to be a credible list with a credible number of people behind me, so that I'm not going to feel like, well, there's not even any point. There's only 50,000 of us. There's only 100,000 of us. It's so easy to ignore that then I may go and hide. I'm only joking, I won't, but I will need another strategy by that point, that's for sure. So I'm going to thanking you all for your precious time and attention. I hope I've made myself clear. I'll try more frequent streams to try and keep the momentum up so that people can hear the updates of what's happening. There are people all over the world helping make this happen, helping me come to you with greater information and with the desire for control groups to happen in their country. But here's the truth. This country, the UK, has massive impact. If we can have a credible control group in this country, other countries will have to follow suit. They will have to. There will be a landslide, a rally of all Western nations having control groups if we can pull this off. Please help us achieve that. Thanks. Have a great evening.